Hey guys, it's EJArendee. I'm going to talk about the differences between ISTJ and ISTP. These two personalities are completely mixed up. The stereotypes on the two personalities are just it's a complete shambles. So the two personalities don't actually really know anything about each other. ISTPs would be somebody like Clint Eastwood, while ISTJ would be somebody like Tommy Lee Jones and Josh Brolin. Okay, they're both action-oriented. They're both doers. They both get stuff done. They're both kind of cold. They both kind of look. They're both pretty badass. You know, if they need to be. They can both be up in your face. They can look very similar to one another. Okay, but they're not. They're not. Internally, there's a sort of their internal values are they're completely different. ISTJs take themselves seriously. ISTJs take themselves seriously. Take a look at Josh Brolin. Take a look at Tommy Lee Jones. Their facial expressions are they don't really joke around a whole lot. They have a lot of dignity for them and self-respect for themselves. Okay, that's typically an FI thing. They don't really joke about themselves. As opposed to Clint Eastwood, who's telling like jokes about how his balls itch and stuff like that. Okay, that's a difference right there. Is do you take yourself seriously? Or are you an ISTP and you really don't give a fuck what anybody said, what everybody thinks about you? So those are some things. ISTPs are rule makers, while ISTJs are rule followers. Okay, ISTPs make a lot of rules. They have introverted thinking, which is sort of an internal subjective logic. So what's going to happen is these ISTPs are going to create a lot of rules, and they'll actually get kind of frustrated when other people aren't following those rules that they made. And they'll be like, "Why aren't you following the rules?" And they'll be like, "Well, because they're your rules, you fucking idiot." So that's going to be a little frustrating with ISTPs. Now, ISTJs are can sometimes be blind rule followers. You know, if the rule is don't pick your nose, I don't know, that's a dumb rule. If the rule is don't hold your fork and your knife at the same time, they're gonna be like enforcing that kind of stupid ass shit on you, and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, and you're like, who made these rules? Why is it? What logical reason is there for this stupid rule? And it's like, no, it's not a logical reason. It's just sort of it's a more proper introverted feeling, kind of abstract decorum reason, as opposed to an ISTP who probably wouldn't care very much about if you held your fork and your knife at the same time. They'd say, well, this is very easy to do, so I'm going to do it. Visually, you can actually tell the difference because, well, first of all, ISTJs look more serious. They look more serious inside and out, while ISTPs are more serious on the inside. Actually, they're not very serious on the inside. They're serious on the outside, but they're not serious on the inside. So, if you didn't know an ISTP, you'd probably think, if you didn't know Clint Eastwood, you'd probably think he was a very serious individual. He's not serious at all. He's very unserious. And he jokes around a lot. He's pretty funny. So, those would be some differences. Rule following versus rule creating. You see, the ISTPs, I make my own rules. And sometimes they'll tell people to follow the rules that they made. And you'll be like, why would I follow your stupid rules? So they can also look like ISTJs in the fact that they're enforcing these things. But ISTJs they don't make the rules. They just follow them. They believe that the system set in place. They have extroverted thinking, so they believe the system set in place should not be bothered, should not be tampered with. It was put in place like that for a reason. So just follow it. Adhere to it. The ISTPs are going to say, okay, the system is stupid. I have a better system, so I'm going to follow that. And obviously this is going to clash with some authorities. But another difference would be ISTPs. They think about logic and systems. Forget everything you know about them being mechanically inclined. Yeah, ISTJs can fix cars too. Okay, so forget all of that stuff. ISTPs are system-oriented. The reason they have a stereotype for being able to fix things, the master mechanics, etc., is because they understand systems without really needing to see them. You look at a car, you say, well, if you fill it with gas, what's the gas do? Well, I would assume using logic that the gas fuels the engine, which is designed to alter the state of energy in which the gas is holding in order to propel the car forward. I would assume that's so. How does that work? Well, there's going to be a pipe, and then at this point they can start imagining what kind of stuff the car is made of without even needing to see the car itself, without having any sort of experience. They can theorize the entire thing. Well, it's going to be filled with gas, so this is a TI thing. Like, well, it's going to be filled with gas, which means there's going to be some sort of vessel that carries the gas from the fuel tank to the engine. So there's going to be a tube of some kind. You're going to need a pump to get that to its destination. Once it gets in the engine, you're going to need a sort of system of hydraulics and whatever to get it where it needs to be. You get the point. So they can visualize these machines without really knowing anything about them. We just know if we have this kind of information, we can use it to theorize this kind of information, and we can synthesize our own. ISTP can synthesize their own solutions to problems. So they can come up. They can look individualistic. They can look very independent and very. It seems as if they don't need anyone's help. So that's something with ISTPs. ISTJs typically just it's extroverted thinking, which isn't the same as introverted thinking. It doesn't synthesize these sort of theories and then put them into practice. Extroverted thinking is pretty much what is known. So what's an ISTJ going to do? ISTJ is going to open up the repair manual and read how to do it. Okay. They're going to read, or what they're going to do is they'll ask questions, or they're going to acquire the knowledge through something other than their own mind. Extroverted thinking, they're going to find what works in that way, and then they're going to apply it. So they're mostly based on experience, and they're very by the book. So you're probably not going to see them being able to fix they might get really frustrated if their car is having a problem that they've never encountered before. So an ISTJ can get frustrated with that. They can be mechanically inclined because they're very practical people, so they want to learn how to fix cars. So they will have a great knowledge on how to fix cars, but it's going to be practical. It's not going to be on the fly the way an ISTP or an ESTP would be able to fix a car. Okay, so an ISTP or an ESTP we don't really need an established knowledge of what we're working on before we know. We need to know some things, but we really don't need all the facts in a situation to make the right solution, because we can synthesize that on our own. This difference between TE and TI can also make TI users look like we're full of crap, like we're just making stuff up, which is a misinterpretation of what we're actually doing. So those are some differences. ISTPs suffer from what's called TI loops. What this is that the ISTP is not receiving any external information. Imagine a carburetor on a car. The air filter, the carburetor is supposed to pull in air. It filters the air so the air can be used to fuel combustion, to power combustion in the engine. when you clog up the air filter, it makes it so that the car can't receive new air. So what's going to happen is this old crappy air is going to be recycled through the car. I think. Just humor me here. The old crappy air is going to be recycled through the car, and I don't actually think engines recycle old air, but for the sake of this example, I'm going to say that they do. No new air is coming in, so it just uses old stagnant air. It's like putting your air conditioning into the recycle mode. It's cycling the air repeatedly, and it's old stagnant air, and it's not. It doesn't smell as nice. It doesn't smell fresh. It's sort of like that. And when ISTP has to deal with this, with these TI-NI loops, they start to think about things they've already thought about. They think themselves in circles. They think about the same things. They analyze the same things over and over and over and over again, beating a dead horse. And they can sort of go crazy doing this. They can get really bored. They can get really depressed, thinking about the same things over and over. And then when they do this, they tend to get into these ruts. They get into these ruts because they're doing the same thing over and over and over again. They're not experiencing anything new that they haven't experienced before. So what they have to do is they have to climb out of this rut, and they have to go out and do new things to get themselves out of this rut. Okay. Now, as an ESTP, I don't have TI-NI loops because my primary mode, I don't have a recursive internal state the way an ISTP would. ISTPs have a recursive internal state. That means it references itself, which can be maddening. So they need to go out, they need to go do stuff. Me, I'm constantly pulling in new information, so as an ESTP, I'm going to pull in all this new information, but I won't sit down and think. But sometimes I'll be pulling in so much information that I won't have sorted through any of it. So I'll sit down, and then my brain will start to overheat, and I'll start hearing, unintelligible clown noises and shit like in my head, and I'll start like going crazy. That actually happened once. I was so busy for a week straight that I didn't have a moment to sit down, and I had too much information in my head, and I needed to just sit down, and I was like getting really tired. My head was kind of like hot, like it was just kind of burning, and I had to sit down I had to lie down and just think and chill out. So now ISTJs, their primary state is introverted sensing with introverted feeling. Okay, so they're not analyzing anything logically. They're just sort of reflecting on introverted sensing and introverted feeling things. Okay, so what this typically means is that they're going to be much more nostalgic. They're going to be much more focused on these nostalgic memories or something like that. ISTJs live very simple lives. They like to live very simple lives. Okay, ISTPs don't like to live simple lives. They like to live big, exciting lives, but they live simple lives because they're stuck in these ruts. So the motivations are different. ISTPs or ISTJs enjoy living simple lives, and they don't like it when you come in and you bombard them with new information and there's noises, loud noises everywhere and stuff like that. They hate that stuff. It frustrates them. So those are some of the differences. If you're an ISTJ, you're going to be much less go with the flow. You won't be able to fix things on the fly the way an ISTP would. And you're probably going to expect kind of a consistency in your environment. A nice, stable, predictable consistency. And ISTPs, you're probably going to be looking for a little bit more excitement in your life. You're going to be looking for things to do, to get out there and experience the world. So, but you don't really, there's something sort of keeping you from doing that. So, yeah, that's, hope that helps a lot. I hope that clarifies the differences between the two personalities. So, see you later.